Discover the incredible moment when a lonely CEO reveals the hidden joy of dance to a brave little girl. Jack Anderson strode out of the boardroom, his mind racing. Another meeting, another barrage of numbers that spiraled right past him, like glass skyscrapers against a cloudless sky. He was the CEO of one of Silicon Valley's leading tech firms, and yet, for all his influence, he felt trapped within the suffocating glass walls of his own creation. As he stepped into the stark afternoon light, he took a deep breath. The metallic air of ambition choked him, and yet he craved more projects, more accolades, but never the time to savor them. He was climbing a mountain that left him isolated, his ascent burdened by the very heartlessness he had once promised to overcome. Lost in thought, he collided with the unpolished door of a nearby community gym, one that stood out as an anomaly among the shiny tech temples. The peeling paint and laughter of children resonated in contradiction to his sterile existence. Reluctant to step inside, he was pulled in by a cheerful tug at his sleeve. An 8-year-old girl with hair like a sunbeam and bright, expressive eyes propelled him into the chaos of the dance class. "Come on! You'll love it!" she shouted. Jack hesitated, unsure if it was even an invitation meant for him. He was nothing but a suit, after all, a man more at home in spreadsheets than in any rhythm of life. But then something shifted within him. A tiny flicker of resistance gave way to an unexpected pull. He stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed, grappling with curiosity as dozens of children spun joyfully, lost in their own world. Their laughter spilled over like a tide he hadn't felt in decades. Skepticism faded, morphing into something he dared not name. Did he really want to feel this? Guilt tugged at him. How could he indulge in joy when the clamor of business awaited him? But the sight of Lily, her fierce determination, her unstoppable spirit began to chip away at the cold shell he had encased himself in. What had he traded for all his success? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The child was not just dancing, she was fighting for herself and for her cause. Digging into Lily's story, Jack discovered the depths of her bravery as she danced to raise awareness of her rare illness. For the first time in years, he felt the stir of purpose beyond profits. The idea of orchestrating a charity gala blossomed in his mind, an event that would merge his corporate world with something sacred and real. But as plans unfolded, shadows loomed near. A rival with a sinister agenda caught wind of Jack's endeavor and began plotting sabotage, sowing seeds of doubt. Could he balance the cold, cutthroat world he knew so well with this newfound sense of belonging? Jack's heart raced as he confronted the harsh truth he had only started to scratch the surface of joy, yet he risked losing it all. The gala was approaching, a dazzling mirage that now felt vulnerable under the weight of his choices. Would ambition reel him back into its icy grasp, or could Lily's bravery inspire him to fight a bigger battle? The suffocating uncertainty tightened around him, leaving Jack perched on the precipice of his own making, desperate to choose the light but fearful of the dark that still lingered behind the glass. Jack's pulse quickened as thoughts of the gala consumed him. He had never envisioned himself as a crusader for any cause, let alone one born from the laughter and twirls of children. Yet here he stood, on a precipice of commitment, drawn deeper by Lily's unyielding spirit. What did it mean to lead a dance of hope, and was he equipped to orchestrate such a delicate balance of ambition and altruism? In the stark, fluorescent-lit halls of his corporate fortress, the contrast grew starker. Conversations about profits and quarterly reports felt increasingly hollow when weighed alongside the vibrant mission blossoming in his mind. The board's metrics no longer resonated, and their corporate jargon sounded grating. He yearned for something that breathed life, something that embraced the range of human emotion he had long buried beneath spreadsheets and meetings. The looming threat from his rival felt like an imminent storm cloud ready to collapse upon him. He knew he couldn't be naive. but there was a deep-rooted unease accompanying the cunning he was accustomed to. His instincts had always directed him to dominate, or be dominated. Yet, in this nascent chapter of his life, a new mantra began to form: collaborate or crumble. Stepping into the community gym again ignited the flicker of joy nestled deep within him. As he entered the studio, the sounds of giggles and music washed over him, soothing his frayed nerves. Lily caught his eye and beamed, as if their connection was a melody that danced in visible threads between them. "Will you dance with us today?" she asked, wide-eyed and hopeful. "Maybe," Jack replied, trying to sound nonchalant. The word hung in the air, a tether between his old self and the man he wanted to become. The idea of joining was terrifying, yet it echoed a truth he was beginning to embrace: joy was a choice he needed to fight for. He watched as children spun in a whirlwind of creativity and laughter, embodying a spirit he scarcely remembered, a reflection of a simpler freedom unencumbered by the bonds of expectations. Could he really step away from the corporate battlefield, even momentarily, to engage in the dance of uncertainty and authenticity? Lily took his hand without hesitation, pulling him closer to the group. There, amid hops and sways, he felt the constraints slip from his shoulders. Each awkward step he took punctuated his journey. Each laugh that erupted around him became a reminder that he was not alone. Doubt still loomed, whispering questions of competence and control. Could he lead this gala? Would others view him as a fraud trying to capitalize on a child's bravery? The shadows of corporate ambition danced menacingly in the back of his mind, warning him of the pitfalls ahead. As the music crescendoed, Jack made a decision not just about the gala, but about his life moving forward. He would blend his world of technology and profitability with the warmth of human connection, just like the rhythm of the dance embraced the chaos of individual movements. He gathered his courage, making plans to shift his strategies, to allow vulnerability to equip him rather than expose him. As he stepped off the dance floor, exhilaration and apprehension tangled inside him, forging a new resolve. But as he departed, his phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. A text from his rival flickered ominously on the screen, a threat to undermine everything he was building. The time had come to face not only external opposition but also the shadow within himself. Would he let go of fear to embrace the resonance of joy, or would he retreat into the safe but stifling confines of what he knew? Jack stood on the edge of a choice, wrestling with what lay ahead. The stage was set for a showdown of ambition against authenticity, but only one force could lead him to true success. Jack stared at the flickering screen, the words from his rival igniting a tidal wave of anxiety. "You think you can play the hero? I'll make sure they see you for what you really are," it read. The bravado was familiar but unsettling, a reminder of the cutthroat environment he had fought hard to rise within. Yet today felt different. Vulnerability had begun to weave itself into his being, ushering in a strange dichotomy. Should he embrace this new part of himself or retreat into the armor of corporate machinations? He breathed deeply, tempering the overwhelming urge to respond with aggression. Instead, he turned his thoughts inward, analyzing the shift within him. Why was he so drawn to the children, to the joy embodied in dance? A part of him realized that this wasn't merely an act of self-discovery. It was also a rebellion against the sterile world that had long suffocated his artistry and ambition. Jack paced through his sleek office, each step a battle between his past and the unknown realm ahead. He could almost hear the echoes of laughter from the gym, the vivid colors of childhood splashing against the monotony of his corporate life. He felt as if he were straddling two worlds, each pulling at him with growing intensity. Yet wrestling the demons of his past felt less daunting with each movement toward the brightness Lily represented. As he mused, an idea solidified in his mind: planning the gala could serve as his bridge. If he chose to weave engaging narratives of courage and laughter into the event's structure, he could potentially disarm his rival's attempts to tarnish his image. This event was more than just a corporate function. It was a celebration of bravery, capturing the authenticity he craved. With renewed vigor coursing through him, Jack grabbed a notepad and began drafting ideas. He envisioned the gala transformed into a dance through stories, where children could showcase their talents, highlighting their unbridled spirit. If he could elevate their voices, perhaps it would drown out the cynicism he feared. The laughter he had long neglected took root in his sketches, ensuring the focus remained on joy and connection rather than mere profit margins. Yet buried beneath this surge of creativity was an unsettling truth. His doubts loomed larger than ever. Could he genuinely find a way to elevate others instead of merely manipulating situations for personal gain? The notion unsettled him, igniting a churning anxiety he thought he had tucked away. His ambition had thrived on competition and domination. Would this new path unearth feelings of inadequacy? That evening, he stood in front of his bedroom mirror, wrestling with the image staring back at him. The reflection portrayed the confident CEO, but Jack felt like an imposter. Can someone so committed to success be trusted with the hearts of others? A soft knock at the door pierced his thoughts. It was Lily, her presence a soothing balm. "Are you coming back to dance?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with hope. "I want to," but Jack hesitated, unsure how to voice his fears. "But what?" she pressed, taking a small step closer, radiating warmth. He took a moment, articulating the weight that pressed against his heart. "What if I'm not enough? What if my plans are just smoke and mirrors?" Lily regarded him earnestly, as if she could see through his skin to the swirling doubts beneath. "You're already enough because you're trying. That's what matters." Such simple wisdom, cutting through the complexity of his emotions, left him breathless. As she twisted and danced to an unheard melody, Jack felt an unexpected stir within himself, the desire to let go of the fear tethering him. Perhaps all these years spent in the boardroom had masked the truth, that genuine connection and authenticity could fuel real success. As he watched her dance, something shifted within him, a flicker of hope igniting a long-dormant desire. Could he transform the gala into a launch pad for not only his ambitions but also for the brave souls ready to step into their spotlight? Just then, another notification from his phone caught his attention, this one an article about his rival's latest underhanded tactics. A surge of determination washed over him. He could not allow this threat to define him. He had a choice to make, both personally and professionally. But as Jack stood there, the stakes continued to rise, each moment pulling him further into a dance of internal conflict. Would he embrace the authenticity Lily had awakened in him, or would he fall back into the old patterns that felt so familiar? The moment of truth was drawing closer, and he sensed it. The real challenge would not come without its own set of trials ahead. The gala, now a tapestry of possibilities, awaited his decision. Would he show up not just as a businessman but as a man ready to break free? Determined to dispel the doubts clouding his mind, Jack pulled on a pair of sneakers and stepped out of his apartment. The vibrant pulse of this city invigorated him, echoing the burgeoning excitement in his chest. He hadn't danced in years, and while the thought filled him with trepidation, he was drawn to the gym like a moth to a flame, the laughter from earlier still ringing in his ears. As he entered, the familiar aroma of sweat and adolescence enveloped him, sparking a flood of memories. It was a world bursting with movement, dreams, and unfiltered joy. Yet there was another layer. He felt like an intruder, clinging to an alien hope amidst an unfamiliarity of youthful exuberance. "Jack!" Lily's voice cut through his reverie, cheerful and unassuming. She was mid-practice, her limbs gracefully weaving through a sequence that looked effortless in her small frame. Something instinctual within him prompted a smile, even amidst the anxiety tightening in his chest. "Hey," he managed, forcing his feet forward as she twirled to face him. "Are you joining us?" she asked, dancing in place, the rhythm palpable. "I thought I'd come watch," he replied, the edges of his resolve softening under her gaze. "Watching isn't how we learn." She beckoned him with an outstretched hand, the warmth propelling him further into the space. "Come on, just try." In an impulsive surge, Jack stepped forward, feeling both the thrill and the weight of his decision. He took her hand, the contact igniting something dormant within him. This wasn't merely dancing, it was stepping into vulnerability, confronting the ghost of a boy he once was, one who reveled in spontaneity and joy but was corralled into the rigid confines of corporate ambition. Tentatively, he mimicked her movements, the lack of precision more revealing than he anticipated. Laughter erupted around the gym, but it was different from maliciousness. It was acceptance, an invitation to let go of the pent-up tension. Every misstep felt like a release he hadn't known he craved. With each beat, the foundations of his past, the layers of competitiveness that had built the wall around him, began to crumble. But beneath the rhythm, a voice whispered doubt. Was it truly bravery to let himself be this exposed? Could he ever successfully pivot towards authenticity, or would he always be tethered to his history? He couldn't shake the thought, that lingering fear of ridicule, not entirely absent even as he danced. Yet there was lightness too. He felt free amidst sparkles of joy bouncing from his movements, his heart syncopated with laughter. Lily kicked off the routine, encouraging him to improvise. Just feel it, she said, her voice a lifeline lacing through the uncertainty. An intuitive surge guided him to move on instinct, no longer bound by the perfectionism that suffocated his corporate persona. With an inward breath, he forgot the stakes, forgot the gala, forgot the rivalry that loomed like a black cloud above him. In this moment, he decided to embrace the dread beneath the joy and acceptance of who he truly was. After a flurry of movements, panting and exhilarated, he paused. Everyone around him echoed that exhilaration, but the applause he received felt different. It was as if a piece of them was cheering for his willingness to expose himself to the fear of failure. See? Lily said, her eyes sparkling with pride. You didn't let yourself get lost in the voice telling you to hold back. He smiled, her simple recognition filling him with gratitude. Yet, a gnawing realization surfaced: he was still unsteady at the precipice of transformation. Could he genuinely carry this newfound energy into the gala, risk it all to confront his rival with authenticity? The music slowed, and Jack felt the vibrations of anticipation coalesce deep within him. He realized the most dangerous enemy wasn't his rival waiting to undermine him. It was the doubts still firmly rooted in his mind, threatening to pull him back into fear. With newfound clarity, Jack stood tall, a decision brewing in the core of who he wanted to become. The upcoming gala, transformed from a mere event into a battleground of personal stakes, an arena to illustrate his growth. But as he stepped back into reality, leaving the gym behind, a realization struck him: the true test wouldn't just be about creating a joyous experience. It was about whose voice he would choose to believe, the one urging him to play safe, or the one championing a path toward courage. The stakes awaited, and Jack took a breath, prepared to explore the depths of his resolve. Stepping out of the gym, he realized his journey had just begun. How he wielded the power of authenticity in a boardroom saturated in cynicism would define his next move. Would he confront his rival head-on, or would old habits pull him back into the shadows? The decision loomed close, tantalizing and terrifying. Jack stepped onto the bustling sidewalk, the city alive with sights and sounds. A smattering of colors whirled around him, a kaleidoscope of life that both invigorated and intimidated him. His heart still beat wildly from dancing, but it quickly settled into a steady rhythm, matching the thrum of the traffic. The gym's laughter faded, replaced by the reflecting thoughts of his day-to-day life, a world plagued by meetings, deadlines, and competition. He flirted with joy in the gym, but as he wandered through the streets, the exhilaration dulled, replaced by an impending sense of dread. The gala was looming ahead like an insurmountable mountain. What if he teetered back into the shadows of his corporate persona when it was time to face his rival? What had felt liberating only moments ago now felt like a fleeting dream. Reaching his office, Jack paused at the entrance, the glass doors a barricade to the chaos within. The slick surfaces reflected a version of him he barely recognized: the determined CEO, the sharp-suited figure devoid of joy. But beyond the reflection was the question that reverberated in his mind: who did he want to be? An echo of Lily's encouragement resonated in his heart, the spirit of improvisation she had nurtured within him. Could he channel that freedom in a room full of executives, where expectations weighed heavily? He stepped inside, ready to confront his reflections. The second he crossed the threshold, a wave of familiar tension washed over him. Papers rustled, voices clashed, and the smell of burnt coffee wafted through the air. Jack made his way to his office, trying to quell the dissonance in his heart with strategic planning, but the mind spins dangerously when left unchecked. As he closed the door behind him, he felt an urge to recreate the joyous movements from earlier. The stakes were high. He needed to reconnect with that spark. He imagined the floor beneath him transformed into the dance studio, where every beat allowed him to relive that moment of vulnerability, that embrace of joy. Not just as an escape, but as a method to reclaim his power. Jack shuffled through files on his desk, searching for his notes from the last board meeting. His rival, Stephen, had taken every opportunity to undermine him, a relentless critic, armed with sharpness that cut deeper than a misplaced word. Strategies, statistics, market analysis, these were the tools Jack had relied on. They were stable yet stifling. What if he wasn't meant for boardroom debates, but instead for something far more authentic? A flicker of rebellion sparked within him. He grabbed a blank sheet of paper and began jotting down his thoughts, his aspirations for the gala, but also the questions that plagued him. How could he confront Stephen without losing the essence of who he had just discovered? How could he articulate the joy he felt, even while facing contempt? With every sentence written, Jack realized that addressing his rival meant tearing down the walls of expectation he had built. He could speak from experience rather than from stats, sharing the exhilaration he found in vulnerability. The more he wrote, the more clarity seeped into his consciousness. But as a resolve solidified, a gnawing voice slithered back. Was this just a fleeting diversion? The specter of self-doubt tightened its grip, whispering that it was easier to retreat into familiar armor than to risk embarrassment. Jack's heart raced as he contemplated the intimidation that haunted him. The door creaked open, and one of his colleagues peeked in. "Are you ready for the meeting?" she asked, her tone a mixture of curiosity and obligation. "Yeah, I am," he replied, though inwardly he questioned the integrity of his answer. He desperately wanted to believe it. As he stood, a decision crystallized within him. He would not allow fear to dictate his narrative. He would move forward armed with authenticity and a semblance of that joy he had unearthed in the gym, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Now the kaleidoscope of his emotions swirled with urgency, and understanding that he truly was at a crossroads. The time had come to face not just his rival, but the very fabric of who he had become, and to step into the unknown with his heart open. As Jack exited his office, determination coursing through him, another thought pierced through the excitement. Would he remain steadfast in his commitment to joy when confronted with cynicism? The answer lay just beyond the conference room door, and he felt that familiar rush of anticipation, a mix of dread and exhilaration that compelled him forward. Would he be able to dance his truth amidst the critiques that awaited? As Jack approached the conference room, he felt the gravity of the moment swell inside him. Each step felt heavy, like wading through murky water, but still, he pressed on. He paused at the door, taking a steadying breath. Beyond lay his colleagues, each locked in their own anticipatory tension, and amidst them, Stephen, smug, confident, and always ready to pounce. He pushed the door open, and a collective murmur rose in anticipation. Jack scanned the faces before him, some weary, others inquisitive, and he recognized that the presentation he was about to deliver was not just about numbers or strategies. It was about him. His authenticity. His newfound voice. It no longer felt like just a professional obligation but a personal declaration. Simplifying his intention, he took the front, grounding himself with the weight of the moment. "Today, I want to share something different." The room fell silent, eyes fixated on him. "I want to speak about joy, what it means in our work, and why it matters in our lives." A tangible wave of confusion rippled through the boardroom, eyebrows raised and whispers exchanged. Jack felt the trepidation resurface, but he pressed forward, his heart invoking the lessons learned in the gym. In a sea of competition, we often forget that embracing joy can be the ultimate competitive advantage, he continued, voice catching momentum. He shared a story from his recent experience in dance, allowing a hint of vulnerability to penetrate his corporate armor. Each anecdote connected him to his colleagues, showing them that beneath the facade of professionalism lay a shared human experience. He spoke about joy as an energy that drives creativity and innovation. Their skepticism morphed into curiosity, and for the first time, Jack felt the stirrings of genuine connection, a seed of trust. Then came Stephen. "Jack, are you really suggesting that joy can impact our bottom line?" His tone dripped with incredulity, eyeliner framed by stifling cynicism. Yes, Jack replied, standing taller. For a brief moment, he envisioned himself back in the gym, limbs soaring as they had danced through liberating movements. Joy fosters collaboration. It inspires us to push the boundaries of our potential. The tension in the room thickened, yet Jack felt a fire ignite within him. He boldly faced Stephen, who smirked, eager to dismantle Jack's argument. And what about rigor? About professionalism? Are we to spoon-feed our clients' happiness while we throw away our principles? Jack's heart raced not from fear of failure, but from critical understanding of his purpose. He had experienced the depth of vulnerability, and how it fueled resilience. I am not suggesting we sacrifice professionalism, he replied, the confidence in his voice steady now. I'm inviting us to weave joy into our professionalism. An integrated approach. The words hung in the air, challenging the norms they had all grown accustomed to. Jack's conviction rippled outward, shifting the atmosphere within the room. He watched as some executives nodded, contemplating his proposal. Every response he received felt like a dance, a delicate interplay between confidence and vulnerability, honesty and clarity. But Stephen wasn't finished. And how will you approach the complexities that come with this joy when faced with critical decisions and high pressure? By being authentic, Jack shot back, the realization that this was a pivotal moment. I'll take risks and embrace challenges that might feel uncomfortable. I won't hide in a safe, rigid box. The meeting stretched on, a series of questions and counterpoints, but now he was fully engaged, fully present. The energy had shifted. The boardroom became a space of exploration where ideas collided and flourished. Jack had moved from participant to leader, sparking conversations that propelled him away from his former self. As he concluded, adrenaline coursed through him. He looked around at the faces, each infused with a new light. He had ventured into the unknown and unlocked a wellspring of authenticity he never knew existed. But the satisfaction was bittersweet. Stephen's hardened expression promised further battles ahead. Would he remain rooted in his newfound conviction amidst the inevitable pushback that lay on the horizon? Exiting the room, Jack felt both exhilarated and apprehensive. He danced his truth, but the real trial awaited. Defending this identity against skepticism could either fortify him or unravel the work he had just begun. As he stepped into the bustling corridor, the cacophony of life swirling around him, he wondered, would he continue to express his truth when the stakes only grew higher? Jack emerged from the conference room, his mind a whirlwind of exhilaration and uncertainty. This was new territory, where vulnerability coexisted with authority. He brushed past colleagues, their murmurs echoing behind him, a mixture of praise and skepticism. Would they see the potential in his vision, or would they label it just another fleeting notion? As he strode toward his office, his reflection loomed larger than life in the glass walls lining the corridor. He needed to regroup. As he settled into the familiarity of his workspace, the weight of Stephen's skepticism bore down on him. Jack had taken that leap, but a formidable counterforce now loomed. His fingers grazed the edge of his desk, momentarily grounding him. He thought of the vibrant energy he had felt in the conference room, and how eager he was to extend that momentum. What next steps could reinforce his message? Would it be enough to convey that joy wasn't merely a luxury, but an essential driver of success? With determination igniting in his chest, Jack flipped open his laptop and immersed himself in research. He sought studies correlating workplace happiness to productivity, articles about companies that thrived on collaboration and positivity. Hours slipped by, and each enlightening finding further solidified his resolve. Dipping into his dance experiences, he scribbled notes, weaving connections between movement and business dynamics. He envisioned a presentation, a follow-up initiative. Would it incorporate visual elements, perhaps even live demonstrations to embody joy? The mere thought sent a jolt of excitement through him. Yet the specter of Stephen's looming challenge nagged at his conscience. Was his pursuit frivolous? Or was it a profound necessity waiting to be recognized? As dusk draped the city outside, the office corridor quieted, creating an atmosphere that fostered introspection. Retreating to a corner of his mind, Jack wrestled with his fears. Could he withstand the inevitable criticisms? Each time he questioned his path, he reminded himself of the weight of authenticity, the bond he needed to forge among his colleagues. Every ounce of vulnerability laid the groundwork for deeper relationships. Yet he also felt the pangs of isolation that accompanied such risky honesty. Jack's tenacity began to waver. In this highly competitive environment, would joy be perceived as weakness? The fear of rejection lingered like an unwelcome guest. Wrestling with these thoughts, he stood, deciding impulsively to visit the gym. As he moved through the familiar space, he was enveloped by the intensity of the workout, a release of pent-up tension through brisk movements. As he lunged and pressed weights overhead, visions of the conference room surfaced, followed by the thrill of unshackling his fears. Breathless and exhilarated, Jack paused on the mat, contemplating the duality of his journey. It was about embracing authenticity, but more importantly, it was becoming comfortable with discomfort. The struggle of pushing his dance metaphor further resonated within him. It wasn't sufficient to simply speak about joy in theory. He must showcase it through genuine action. Rejuvenated, Jack pushed through to the final set, feeling invigorated yet grounded. It dawned on him this wasn't merely about resisting doubt, but thriving in the face of it. He resolved to approach Stephen directly, seeking common ground. Perhaps engaging the naysayer could open avenues for collaboration rather than rivalry. As he wrapped up his workout and exited, an idea materialized. Could he actually plan a workshop that seamlessly intertwined the principles of joy with their corporate structure? He would extend an invitation to Stephen, framing it around the potential for shared growth. How to navigate that conversation would be fraught with challenges, but Jack felt a contagious thrill at the thought. Stepping outside, a brisk breeze enveloped him. He stared into the horizon, contemplating the path that lay ahead. There was no denying the stakes had heightened. Would he dare to stay true to this newfound vision with tangible steps, or would the familiar gravitational pull of doubt snatch him back into obscurity? The moment had come. Bold choices awaited, each weaving through the dance of uncertainty. He took a steadying breath and thought, this isn't just a presentation anymore, it's a movement. Jack awoke the next morning with the resolve of a soldier gearing up for battle. He hadn't merely mapped out a plan but had summoned the fearlessness needed to face his doubts. The sun peeked through the blinds of his office, its golden rays filling the workspace with warmth, a stark contrast to the chill that had settled in his bones over the past few days. Today was the day he would step beyond the confines of his own apprehensions. With a sense of purpose tinged with urgency, he began drafting the outline for his workshop. He envisioned the room filled with vibrant energy, colleagues sitting in a U-shape, ready to engage, learn, and perhaps most crucially, move. Would they laugh? Would they extend their hands and try to dance? The thought sent a ripple of excitement through him, yet the ghost of Stephen's skepticism loomed, casting shadows over every bright idea he had. The more he wrote, the more he realized that the workshop wasn't just about joy. It was a commitment to foster authentic connections in a professional culture often devoid of spontaneity. He meticulously crafted each section, weaving together statistics and anecdotes, including his own dance experiences that mirrored the ebb and flow of corporate dynamics. His excitement surged as he listed activities, an icebreaker where participants would share a joy from their lives, and a segment that would involve spontaneous dance to emphasize teamwork and trust. As he worked, Jack felt the familiar tug of self-doubt tugging at the edges of his resolve. Was he stepping too far into the impractical? His colleagues were busy professionals, accustomed to the rigidities of corporate expectations. But wasn't that precisely the point? He was determined to break through the barriers restricting their creativity and connectivity. For just a moment, he allowed himself to envision the ripple effect. If his workshop succeeded, perhaps it would unlock the potential in others and elevate the entire organization. Once he finalized the outline, a sense of accomplishment washed over him, but the impending conversation with Stephen loomed large in his thoughts. He had to tread carefully, navigating their established hierarchy while challenging it at the same time. The prospect of presenting this idea to Stephen, who embodied the very corporate skepticism Jack was trying to dismantle, sent an electric charge through his veins, both frightening and exhilarating. The clock ticked steadily, building tension as he prepared for the daring task ahead. In the back of his mind, a question lingered: what if Stephen dismissed his idea on the spot? But Jack pushed those thoughts aside. He had distanced himself from self-doubt before. He could do it again. He needed to embrace the discomfort that came with his ambition. As he approached Stephen's office, Jack's heartbeat quickened. Just before he knocked, a fleeting thought struck him: what if he flipped the power dynamic? Instead of seeking permission, what if he presented his idea as an opportunity that required Stephen's insight and participation? Could a collaborative approach soften the edges of skepticism? With a newfound strategy in place, he knocked on the door, uncertainty coiling in his stomach. But as the door swung open, he stood tall, resolved to embrace this opportunity for growth. How would Stephen react to this unexpected proposition? "Can we talk?" Jack began, swallowing hard as he stepped inside. What he didn't expect was the ripple of apprehension in the pit of his stomach. He felt raw yet determined, ready to face his opposition head-on. As the door closed behind him, a wave of electric anticipation surged through him. He was not just presenting an idea, he was unearthing a vision. Would this be the moment he transformed skepticism into inspiration? Or was he standing at the precipice of a confrontation that could either elevate him or plunge him back into obscurity? The answers were suspended in the air, and with an anxious breath, he began to speak. Jack found himself in Stephen's office, the air thick with tension, every detail amplified in his heightened state of awareness. The stark furniture, the neatly organized stacks of papers, the way the rays of sunlight sliced through the blinds, all of it felt like an emotional magnifying glass. He could feel his pulse throbbing in his temples, his mind racing as he looked at his boss. This was not just a presentation, this was a confrontation of values, an opportunity to pivot the corporate climate. "Thanks for seeing me," Jack began, keeping his voice steady despite the tumult inside. This was his moment. "I've developed an outline for a workshop that I believe could significantly shift our team dynamics." He pushed a thumb across the pages of his meticulously drafted plan, ready to navigate the conversation carefully. As he unfolded his vision, Jack focused on elaborating the importance of emotional intelligence in the workplace, emphasizing how the lack of genuine connection stifled creativity. Stephen listened, but there was a hint of skepticism etched across his face, as if he were waiting for the punchline of a long-winded joke. "Jack," Stephen cut in, his authoritative tone chilling the room, "you do realize our environment is built on specific outcomes and metrics. Dancing around the office doesn't exactly fit that mold." The air abruptly felt colder, and a lump formed in Jack's throat. Did Stephen truly not see the potential? But something fired within him. This was not just about dance, it was about redefining the office culture. The ghost of self-doubt floated in his periphery, but he refused to let it consume him. "Exactly," Jack responded, leaning forward, his voice infused with a newfound vigor, "the rigidity is part of the problem. People aren't machines. They're creative beings stifled by the walls we build around our professional lives. When was the last time we encouraged vulnerability? The last time we transformed a meeting into a moment of connection?" He saw a flicker in Stephen's eyes, a small crack in the wall of skepticism. Jack needed to capitalize on it. He shifted strategies, incorporating personal anecdotes that painted his vision vividly. He recounted experiences from previous teams, where collaborative play and spontaneity led to innovative ideas born not from obliged seriousness but from liberated joy. And as he painted the possibilities, he took a risk. Jack offered a bold challenge. "If nothing else, let us do a trial session. We can invite a few team members to participate and gather feedback. If it doesn't yield results, it's a one-time notion we can put to bed." They both understood the stakes. It was a gamble, one that could either elevate Jack's standing within the company or further entrench Stephen's doubts about his eccentricity. But there was courage in vulnerability, and he found he was empowered by the uncertainty of the outcome. The very act of proposing a test breathed life into his conviction. "I'm not asking for approval, just consideration," Jack stated firmly, his resolve crystallizing into clarity. Let us use this as an opportunity to discover what could happen when we step outside our comfort zones. Stephen's gaze softened a fraction, though he remained non-committal. Jack could sense the shift, the tension in his shoulders slowly easing. They stood on the precipice of a decision, one that could either lock Jack into the confines of conventionality, or open doors to burgeoning creativity. Okay, I'm willing to explore this a bit more, Stephen finally conceded, though Jack could see the skepticism remaining. Great, I appreciate your openness, Jack replied, suppressing the urge to pump his fist in triumph. As he left Stephen's office, a renewed energy coursed through him. He hadn't just asked for approval, he had sought a partnership, instigated thoughtful collaboration, and most importantly, he had taken a stand for what he believed in. However, as the door clicked shut behind him, a wave of trepidation swept over him once again. What would the team's reaction be? Would they embrace the unconventional concept, or would he face ridicule? Jack paced back to his office, his excitement mingling with anxiety, as silence filled the space. The true test was yet to come. The real challenge lay in gathering the courage to lead a team accustomed to rigid norms into the uncharted territory of creative expression. Would his vision resonate, or would it fall flat on its face? The moment of truth loomed near, a whisper of doubt lingering in the back of his mind. Yet Jack felt the thrill of possibility. This was the moment he had fought for. What he didn't know was how far this leap could take him into unknown territories of both personal and professional growth. And as he prepared for the next step, a question emerged fiercely in his mind: how would he inspire a team that had largely forgotten the meaning of joy and play? In the days leading up to the workshop, Jack felt a combination of exhilaration and tension swirl within him. He meticulously prepared, refining his presentation to embody the spirit of creativity and joy he had recently embraced. The stakes felt different now. This was not just a performance for the boardroom, but an authentic expression of who he had evolved into. He envisioned the room alive with energy, participants laughing and moving freely, not ensnared by the burdens of corporate expectations. As he arrived on the day of the workshop, the familiar sense of dread attempted to creep in, but he stood firm. The room, set in a U-shape, beckoned to him. As the team filed in, curiosity flickering in their eyes, Jack greeted them with a warmth he drew from his experiences at the community gym. Today, he began, looking around the room, we're going to dive into the joy of connection and creativity. Let us explore what happens when we shift our perspectives and embody a spirit of exploration. Encouraging laughter broke the tension like a wave, setting a collaborative tone. His opening activity invited everyone to share a personal joy, a small act of vulnerability that felt electric in the air. As stories weaved themselves through the room, Jack witnessed colleagues opening up, their guarded exteriors softening. He could see the immediate impact. Shared laughter sparked a sense of camaraderie that hadn't existed before. As they transitioned into movement, demonstrating his concept of integrating rhythm into teamwork, Jack felt fear dissolve within the laughter from his colleagues. The room transformed. It became a space not just for professional growth but for genuine human interaction. With every spontaneous movement, he infused energy into the room, embodying his ethos that business could be both effective and joyful. And then it happened. Amidst the flurry of activity, Jack caught Stephen's eye. At first, he braced for a familiar skepticism, yet he discovered instead a faint glimmer of curiosity mixed with respect. Jack seized the moment, stepping forward to engage Stephen directly. How does this feel for you? To his surprise, Stephen's response was candid. I didn't expect this, he said, shaking his head slightly. Maybe I've underestimated the value of joy in our work. The acknowledgement felt like a seismic shift for Jack. It wasn't just about the workshop anymore. It was about breaking down the rigid walls that had shaped their corporate culture. As the session drew to a close, Jack gathered feedback, watching eyes glimmer with possibilities that had previously felt unreachable. The post-workshop discussions unveiled newfound insights. And as Jack synthesized their thoughts into actionable strategies, he recognized his evolution. He had not just led a workshop, he had ignited a movement. His colleagues' enthusiasm felt infectious, their hearts daring to embrace joy within their work lives. Weeks later, the gala he had envisioned alongside Lily loomed closer. This time, it was more than a corporate initiative. It was a celebration, a testimony to overcoming personal barriers and opening doors to vulnerability. Jack stood on stage, a sense of confidence emanating from his very being. He thanked the attendees not just for their presence, but for embracing a journey toward authenticity. As applause filled the air, Jack felt the culmination of so many changes, each a step toward connecting the dots of joy and resilience in a competitive world. Standing there, he realized he had accomplished a monumental personal achievement. He had not only incorporated joy into his leadership but inspired those around him to do the same, effectively altering the corporate narrative they had all adhered to. The whispers of doubt he once held at bay were silenced, replaced instead by a profound sense of purpose. Jack Anderson had forged a new identity, one where authenticity led to genuine connections, resilience thrived under love for the work, and creativity flourished in a previously stifling environment. With solid confidence and a recognized competence, Jack had proven to himself that it was possible to conquer the challenges he once deemed insurmountable. Now was the time for you to make a choice. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your own journey of transformation. Leave a like now for the algorithm, because your support is crucial for keeping these stories alive. Comment below your reactions and theories about this ending, share your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of promoting growth and joy in all aspects of life.